Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Hope you guys are doing well. Thanks for joining today. We're on the Coxswain sub, and I wanted to make another video about signaling systems and Trainz and how to set those up. This one's going to be a second video about APB or Absolute Permissive Block, but it's going to look a little bit different than last time because we're going to set up the signals a different way. So this is the intersection of the main line, north-south, which you see on the left, and the med branch breaking off here on the right. And as soon as you break off onto the med branch, you get into ABS or APB territory. So I wanted to talk about what actually makes this signaling system unique from a CTC system. So in a CTC system, you have control points, and those control points are dispatcher controlled, like this one over here. So as a train comes in, the dispatcher will decide if he's going to stay on the main or take the siding, throw a switch for him, and then at that point the signal will reflect the status of the track, and that also gives the train permission or authority in order to get into that block. And then when you get to the other side of that control point, there are absolute signals that you cannot pass that will hold you in that block until the dispatcher releases you. With an APB system or ABS system, the authority to move is given by the dispatcher but not via the signals. So one thing that's similar to a CTC system is between two control points, you still have intermediate signals. And these are signals with the black plate. Usually has some sort of milepost marker on them. And I'm going to show you how to set these up. It's really straightforward. But the nice thing about an APB or ABS system with this setup is it doesn't require as many signals as the one that I put in the last video. And it doesn't require any quirky little kind of exceptions or things like that. Remember, if you remember last time, we had to put in an invisible speed limit at 15 miles an hour in order to get the train to behave correctly. This method will not need that, and it's kind of nice actually. So let's go look at a control point in an area that is APB, and let's examine the differences. Don't mind the scenery here. It's partial but not completed, so we'll get there. So here is a great example of a control point on an APB section of track. We do not have a black plate here, so this is an absolute signal. And then on the other side of it, we have another absolute signal. And these are not to be passed without authority. So if a train is ordered into the siding or ordered on the main, and the signal does not give them clearance, then obviously they won't go. But even if the signal does give them clearance, if they don't have authority from the dispatcher via whatever method that is, whether that's timetable train order, DTC, radio, mother may I, track warrant, whatever, if they don't have authority to get past signal, then even if it reads green, they can't go. And so the signal does not communicate authority. But at the edge of the control point, you have an absolute signal facing both directions. And then this one has two heads because, of course, it represents the fact that there is a diverge, and it can read the diverge. This one, the bottom head, is dark because it's not actually reading the diverge, and so the moment that you throw the diverge, it will just shift to restricting, even if it's occupied or not. But that's how that works, which is cool. I have it set to automatically read the signal in front of it, or the block in front of it, sorry. And then at the other end of the control point, this is where it continues to be different. Notice there's no signals here, no absolute signals to hold you in the control point. Instead, they're at the end of the control point where the main is, so it's just back on the single track. And of course, we've got an absolute going both directions. Kind of the same deal. I can throw the switch. It changes to restricting, even though there's not a train coming. And then when I change it back to the main, it just goes back to automatic. So here's how in Trainz you would set these up. You would go to your track. You would go to trackside mode, and you would choose your signal. These, for example, are the safe train signals. I really like the safe train signals. My other favorite are the searchlight signals, which are amazing. I definitely enjoy using those. I do believe those come built into Trainz 19 and Trainz 22. But this, at a diverge, this is an 06 signal. Now I have it set to RD. That's for right diverge, because the diverge is to the right. And it says in parentheses there left, because it sits on the left side of the track. If I were to open up its properties and take a look at it, here are the settings. So this shows you that the straight path is green. The diverge is to the right, and then you can add more entries if you want. You can change those around. That changes the signal logic, so wouldn't recommend doing that unless of course you have more switches. which I can make a separate video on that kind of setup. I'm not going to look at that too much today. But the key, if you want it to show restricting, you need to click this box. Diverging route is unbounded. I did talk about that a little bit in the last video, but this is what allows for it to show restricting if the path is on the diverge. Otherwise, it will read the block, and if there's a car there, which you can see there is, it will just show red. But if you click diverging is unbonded, now it will just show restricting no matter what's over there. Actually, no matter what's there, it'll just show restricting, even if it's clear. And then check this box to operate in idle if you want it to read the block in front of it. Otherwise, if you don't click that, it'll just show red until it detects that a train's coming. And then, of course, if you want the signal to turn off, you can hit approach lit, which technically I should do. I just haven't yet. And then that will take care of itself. If you want to show advanced approach, you can. This is just an extra gap with like a double yellow or a flashing yellow. I do have that on the CTC main line. I do not have that on the branch line here, but that's just my preference, and that is what it is. On the other side, I use an 04 signal. You don't have to use the one that can mount to the same post, but I like that. It's called the Signal 04 head. You can get just the traditional 04 signal with its own mask and everything's fine. And kind of similar coding there for that one. We have show advanced approach is turned off, approach lit is turned off, although I'll eventually be turning that back on. And of course, operate in automatic mode. There's no question about diverging or unbonded or anything like that because this signal is not designed to read a switch. And then between your absolute signals, you use intermediates. Let's see, here's an intermediate right here. And this is one of the cool features of the built-in signals for this game. These are actually off the download station, sorry. You use an 05 signal as an intermediate. It doesn't have a lot of properties. You can just do kind of the same as the absolute. Advanced approach, approach lit, or operate in idle. But this one on the other side, this is the really cool one. This is an 06D, which stands for intermediate or distant signal. And this is like an 06 signal. It's got two heads, but it's not an absolute one. It's got a black bar because it's intermediate. And what it does is it reads the block ahead, but it allows you to show special, it allows you to show special aspects. Like, for example, if the signal in front of it with two heads was not a restricting signal and it was reading like a diverging clear, for example, then this would show an approach medium, a yellow over green, which would be really cool. In our case, though, let's go back to drive session real quick so we can see for ourselves. In our case, it's reading right now that it's clear. If we go back over here and flip this switch to restricting, so there it is, restricting, junction's not aligned, that's correct right there. Even if I align it, notice it still says restricting because the block is occupied, that's fine. Let's go see what this intermediate distance signal is showing. It should be showing approach restricting, which is yellow over flashing red. And I went a little bit too far there, sorry. So let's go take a look, and there it is. Yellow over flashing red, approach restricting. So this tells you that the next signal is restricting and you cannot pass it at anything above 15 miles an hour. And if you don't use this two-headed intermediate signal and you instead only use an 05 signal facing against that switch, then it would just be showing just a normal yellow, which would indicate that you're going to stop at the next signal. But the truth is we're not going to stop at the next signal. We're going to pass it at 15 miles an hour because it's restricting. Unless, of course, your railroad's rules say that you do have to stop first before you proceed. Some railroads, you can just proceed past restricting signal at 15. Others, you have to stop. That's up to you. But the nice thing about the signaling system is you never have to place signals in the control point. You only need to place them between. So intermediate signal, intermediate, intermediate. Here is not really a control point, but it is at least a diverge. Just that little co-op here. All right, but then yeah, between the control points, there's no need for any signals inside the control point. Another nice thing about it is when you get to like the terminus of the line or you get to a yard, you just need one signal. And now as soon as you pass this signal, no matter which way the switch is thrown, in this case, I set it to restricted. And that's because this is the end of the line. And so there are no signals past this point, so we want them to proceed at no more than 15 miles an hour because you're entering yard limits. And that's another cool way to set it up. Quick review. You've got home signal 04, home signal 06 because it's facing a switch. Those do not have black plates. Then on the route itself, between home signals, you've got 05 signals facing away from the switch because you only need to show green, yellow, or red. And then you have two-headed signals. Look at that, approach restricting again. Two-headed signals, 06Ds, or intermediate distant, when you're facing a switch. And that's it. The rest of it, everything else, is just 05s, like right here. There's no switch within a couple of blocks, so it's just two 05s. Love it. Anyways, as I mentioned before, APB and ABS are my favorite signaling systems to have. I did model CTC on the main line. If you guys would like a video on CTC, I'd be happy to show you how to set it up. Keep in mind, because it's Trainz, it's not perfect. You know, if you give them a switch and a signal, they're still not actually going to go. You do have to give the AI engineer a place to go to, and I use track marks to help with that. But the signaling systems, whether you're using APB with either the setup in the last video or this setup, or if you use CTC, of course, with a few small modifications, you can absolutely get traffic to flow very easily on your routes here, and it really adds a lot of fun because it allows you to kind of free yourself up to do the switching and things if that's what you like. Or you can just drive the Trainz yourself, but you know, it's always your choice. But this has been fun, guys. I appreciate it. Thanks for watching. I always enjoy talking about these things. Hopefully you found this helpful. If you have any questions, please ask. And if you didn't feel it was helpful, I apologize. If you want something in particular, let me know that too, and I'll put it on the list. All right, my friends. Thanks as always. We'll catch you guys next time.